Hi guys. Having finished Hal Leonard's books 1, 2, and 3, I'm going back a little bit here to Mel Bay's Method 1. Back when I started teaching, I was going to zig where everybody else zagged. They were all using Hal Leonard, and I had looked over the Mel Bay book and saw that it was much more in-depth and it moved much more quickly, and thought that it would be a better book for my students. It turned out, though, that most of them were not able to handle it. It moved too fast and added too many elements that they really weren't ready to take on in any kind of timely fashion, the way people practice these days. So I put it aside. I hardly ever look at it, but I thought I'd go back a little bit and look at it now, adding it into your Hal Leonard work. This wouldn't be something you would necessarily be tackling only after book 3 of Hal Leonard. This would come in perhaps around page 26 or 27 of Hal Leonard's book 1. Once we get into Carter picking for sure, when you were doing Wildwood Flower, you could be looking at this. This book emphasizes duets right away and working your chords into your melodies. I found that to be a really fascinating way to look at music, and always thought that that was more of a musical way to play, but it does turn out to be a little bit challenging. This song, Long Long Ago, is arranged by Mel Bay, and it looks very much like a Carter style song, although I can't find any evidence that it's ever been done in the Carter style. But he's arranged the melody on the low strings with chord punctuations higher, which is the trademark of Carter style. Quite to the contrary, in fact, this song has been used more as a jazz standard than a country song as far as I can see. It's from the 1830s, I think 1833, and it's what was known as a parlor song. Easy, singable melody, nostalgic theme, and it's the kind of song that people could play guitar to and sing quite easily. The Mel Bay book has arranged it like a classical book would. Your melody is in the lower end here, and they've differentiated it from the chords, which are in the higher end, with the stems going down. So we actually have on one stave the two different parts. We have the background resting on beat 1, strumming on beat 2, resting on 3 and 4. The melody on the bass line playing on beat 1, holding for 2 with this half note, playing on beats 3 and 4. I'm going to break away from showing you that way fairly quickly because I don't find that the easiest way to write or read. But let's have a quick look at it. So we make a C chord, play the bass note of the C note as your melody, strum the upper 4 strings, E, G, C, and E, play the low C again, the open D, and the E note still in a C chord. So the way you play that is to play the C on the 5th string, strum it, play that C again, walk up the scale, open the D. Without letting go of the chord, place the E note in the next bar, strum it, play the E note which you're already holding, add the F with the pinky, play the G note which you're already holding, strum what's left of the chord, just a couple of strings. Move that finger to A, open it again to the open G, and hit the E note on the bass, and strum. So it's exactly like Carter picking. This E, F to G is from Wildwood Flower. So is the A, G, and E. So although it's not necessarily a Carter style song, the way it's arranged here, it's identical to anything you would play in Carter picking. They're using rests up in the top, which doesn't mean you're not playing at all. It means that you're not playing a chord while you're playing the bass note, which is the melody. At the end of the line, you've strummed the chord on beat 2, and you do 2 more strums. I forgot my rest right here in front of the strum. That whole note in the bass, in the melody, should be accompanied and matched with a quarter rest in beat 1, then this is beat 2, and then 2 more strums. I'm going to abandon that style of writing by the 3rd line here anyway. So now we're on a G7 chord. We've got the rest on the top of the stave, the G note, the 3rd string, on the bottom. Now I'm not writing out the notes anymore. I'm just going to say strum what's left of your G7 chord. Play the F and the E, the open D, and strum 3 times. It is useful to be able to read your notes in a chord. I don't know how proficient people get at picking out all those individual notes on the fly in sight reading. Basically what I end up doing, especially from hymn reading and classical, is you get a sense of the chord you're in and you kind of estimate that chord right away. You can usually guess that it's the triad If you see a note jammed in kind of close and the head sticks off on the other side, you'll be looking for something else like a 6 or a 7 added in. But usually it's just going to be the chord that you're told to play. So here again we're at G. I'll hit the G string, strum the chord, play the F note on the 4th string, the E, the D, strums, F, 1 strum, and continue walking down the scale, E, D, C. The book, as you've known from many of my videos, will not use a repeat, but I will. So let's start again. We just finished first ending and hit a repeat. Back to the top, C, C to D, to E, E to F to G, A, G, E. 3 strums there, 1 notated and 2 in orchestra slashes. The G7 again. A D, but not in ending 1, in ending 2. And then we finish the walk to C. When you try to read my notes there, I've run out of room to get my 3 little arrows in. I just tried to pretend they're there, but that's a full bar. Bass note, whole note. This time I did get the rest in there, and then 3 strums. And then this scale run ends your 8 bars of the second section. So we've done an A and an A section, 2 sections of 8. You can hear this very country move. And we end up on a G7, hit the G, strum the chord. F, E, D. Maybe it's been a while since you've looked at ledger lines. That's the low G of a G chord, then the B, then the D, and then the F. So pure arpeggio on G, G7. Strum, E, D, and C. 3 strums, back to G7s. Notice these 4 bars and these 4 bars are identical. I missed an opportunity to use a repeat sign there. For some reason I didn't think it was applicable. I thought there was some difference, but there obviously wasn't. Let's run through that again. We'll run up to the G from the C, so straight up a scale. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, G on a G7, F, E, arpeggio on a G chord. Strums, G7, F, E, D, G, B, D, F. That's that arpeggio again. So we have an 8-bar A section, repeated, 8-bar A section, slightly adapted, 8-bar B section, 2 identical phrases of 4, and then we're back to an A section here. This is how I prefer to write it. I'm writing all my stems appropriately into the staff, putting my chord strums in between. There's no notation in the world that does that. I just prefer to. And we'll just use a classical technique, knowing that this C note, for instance, is held as long as possible. So since it's going to be played, it's going to be part of a chord and played again. Don't let it go. So this is actually a half note, but this system doesn't require that I write it that way. So here's the C note, the strum, C, D, E, strum higher, E, F, G, there's only a few notes to strum now, A, G, E, strum the top 3 or 4, G7 with the G note, F, E, D, G, E, D, C, 2 beats there, and hold the strum for 2. So I have a C, and a G, and an E. That's the arpeggio on C. We rarely hear that low E in a C chord. Melodically, that's really nice though. So that's all the ideas. We're mostly looking at pentatonic, of course. Here on the C chord, we see A's and Ds. We do throw in some Fs as we walk out of that sus on a C chord, just like in Wildwood Flower. There are no Bs though, so that's the 7th note of the scale. So it's very close to pentatonic, just with some passing tone Fs. So let's have a fairly slow version of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Section. On mine, I'm doing NB2. 2, 3, 4, run. Second section. Section again. You notice on the top of your Mel Bay page it says andante, which is a moderately slow walking pace. I'm going to play it a little quicker now though, give it a little bit more of that Carter feel. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go, guys. Slip that back into your beginner work somewhere back in your earlier Hal Leonard days. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one.